Hello everyone, welcome to Pinkoween. This is the second video. I call this one Oogie Woogie, and Pinkoween is where we're using a set color palette for this year's Halloween designs, and I've got the colors set out here, white and black. You're going to want a dark and a light pink. I'm using Joyful Pink and Bubblegum Pink. You're going to want a light and dark orange. I'm using, or a dark and light orange. I'm using Jack-o'-lantern and Fresh Mango. I will put the colors here up on the screen. The whole idea behind this is just to have fun. This year in stores, you'll see pink is trending for Halloween, and pink and orange are just such a fun color combination. Of course, you can change the colors for this design and do anything that you like. So don't be afraid to change things up. I'm going to go ahead and take that off the screen and we will get started here. So I've got a 6x6 canvas and I put my stencil on there. I just use, I've got a couple different stencils, but my favorite is this Happy Dotting Company stencil. So I've got that marked in the center here, but you can use any 16-arm stencil that you might have laying around. And you'll just need a set of dotting tools and some paint to get started. And before we begin, I'd love to invite you, if you have not already done so, if you could please hit like, and if you could follow my Facebook page. It makes a huge difference when people follow me on YouTube and follow me on Facebook. For small creators like me, it really makes a difference. So I would appreciate it if you find value in my content, if you would please do that. And then I'm just going to set my tools out here and let's get started. All right. For the center, I am going to get my 10 millimeter. And I am going to do, let's see, we're going to do orange for the center. Dark orange, 10 millimeters. There we go. All right, then what you're going to want to do is get a 1 millimeter tool. For this, I'm going to use white and light orange. So what we're going to do is 1 millimeter, we're going to place 8 dots. So I'm going to do my north, south, east, and west. I always start with my cardinal points. Remember to dip and dot each time. Then I'm going to do halfway in between those. That'll give us 8. Put my twirly lazy Susan on underneath this. That just gives me a little more flexibility here. All right, so we've got 8 little dots, 1 millimeter. Halfway in between each of those, I am going to do 1 millimeter white dots. So we're going to have a total of 16 alternating dots. So halfway in between, I'm going to add a 1 millimeter white dot. So all together, we're going to have 16 around our center circle. All right, then we're going to switch to 1.5 millimeters. So we're going to go up a size. Now, usually I offset my dots. I'm not going to do this. We're going to be working within the same ray, and we're going to alternate the colors. So where I have my light orange dots, I'm going to put my white dots. So I'm working in 1.5 millimeters. I'm going to place a white dot at my north, south, east, and west. And then halfway in between those. So I place a white dot 1.5 millimeters next to each orange dot. And then next to each white dot, I'm going to place light orange. So we're just alternating. So we end up again with a total of 16. Change my lighting just a bit here. It's a little bright, and that alters the colors. That's a little bit better. All right, I'm going to go up a size, 2.5 millimeters. We're going to alternate the colors again. So 2.5 millimeters, I'm going to start with orange. So I've got orange, white, and then orange in this line. Orange, white, orange. So wherever I've got a white dot, right next to it, I'm placing an orange dot. And so this creates an alternating pattern. And we're going to do the same thing with white. So wherever I got the orange dot, I'm going to come through and place a 2.5 millimeter white dot. Now I'm going to do this one more time where we alternate. I'm going to switch to my 3 millimeter stylus. And then again, wherever I've got orange, I'm going to do a white dot. And wherever I've got a white dot, I'm going to come through with a 3 millimeter orange. And this takes me just outside the first ring of my stencil. We're going to switch to pink. I'm going to use dark pink, and I've got my 6mm tool. Now, wherever I've got a white dot, I'm going to leave a little room because 6mm is a little bit bigger. And I'm going to place a dark pink dot. So every other line gets a 6mm in our darker pink. I'm going to end up with 8 of those. For every other line. I'm not making these any bigger. I'm just making sure there's enough paint. Some of these are a little thin. Right. 6mm, every other dot, we end up with 8 of those. Then I'm going to walk the dots around those. I'm going to do all my centers first with 1.5mm. I'm going to use light pink. So 1.5mm dot on the centers. Light pink. Then I'm going to switch to my 1mm side, and I'm going to walk the dots on each side. So this is what we're going to end up with. I'm going to do this all the way around. right, for the next part, you are either going to want an oval tool. I've got the Happy Dotting Company set of oval tools. If you want to use those, that's fine. If you don't have an oval tool, you can use your pencil eraser, which works. I'll show you. Let me grab a piece of paper here. These oval tools and these pencil erasers are pretty much the same thing. So I'll show you what it looks like when I dot with the pencil eraser. Very similar. So if you don't have the oval tool, you can totally use just a normal pencil eraser. They work great to get the same effect. So what I'm going to do is grab my oval. We're going to go back to our dark orange. I'm going to make an oval in the center. Each of these. Dark orange, oval tool. If you've got the oval set, this is a size 6. We're going to place 8 ovals. Then I'm going to get a 2.5mm stylus. I'm going to go back to my dark pink. And I'm going to walk the dots on each side. I'm going to go back to my dark orange and use my 3mm stylus, and we're going to walk it up one last time on each side. All right, once you finish that, we are going to do some brush work, and I really like the Happy Dotting Company brushes. I'm going to use their size B. For this, you really don't need a long bristled brush, although if you have one, you can totally use a long bristle. But we're not going a big distance, so it's not a huge deal. But what we're going to do, we're going to use our light pink, and I'm just going to show you with chalk. If it makes you more comfortable, you can draw it first with chalk or your chalk pencil, and then it might be a little easier. If you're good at visualizing it, you don't have to worry about that. But basically, we're going to start in the little dip between the petals, and we're going to come to a point at the tip of the petal there. And so again, if it makes you more comfortable, you can draw it. I don't always draw it. Usually once I get going, it's pretty easy just to visualize. But for the sake of the video, I will draw it. Just so when you're making your brush strokes, you can see where we are going. All right, so that's what we want our petals to look like. As I mentioned, we're going to use our light pink. Whenever I make brush strokes, the trick is to, wherever we start, we're going to push down on our bristles, pull, and lightly lift. So push down, pull, and lightly lift. All right, I'm going to set this aside. I am going to use that brush in another step in a few minutes. All right, next I'm going to use the 8mm tool. We're going to go to our light orange. And inside the dip of each petal, we're going to do an 8mm dot. So for me, it's just inside where this ring is from the stencil. That was 8mm light orange. I'm going to go back to my oval tool, my dark pink, and what we're going to do, I'm going to do this on one petal, or on one portion, and I'm going to show you all the way around after I demonstrate the full thing on one. So in the center, we're going to add a petal, and then two more on each, or I'm sorry, a petal, an oval, and then two more on each side. So we're going to surround around. Again, if you don't have an oval tool, go ahead and use a pencil eraser. It works just as good. All right, I'm working pretty quickly, and I'm not the best at spacing these out, but I feel like it's pretty forgiving once you do all of them. And they end up looking like kind of half flower bursts there. Next, we're going to use white. And an 8mm tool again. And at the tip of each of these petals, we're going to place a white dot. You're going to need to leave room. You're not going to be able to go right at the tip because of these petals that we've created. So you're going to want to go out just a little bit. So be mindful of your placement. You can go as close as you want. Just make sure your white dot fits. So 8mm white paint. We're going to go back to our oval tool and dark orange. Next to each circle, we're going to add a dark orange oval. Now, just outside, we're going to do another brush stroke here, another set of brush strokes. And so what I'm going to do is just outside this orange oval, I'm going to make a little dot. Again, you can do this with your eye. You don't have to actually mark it with chalk, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to mark it so you can see where I'm going. And then what we're going to do here with the brushwork is we are going to pull some brush strokes into that point. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay. I just mark my point so I know where I'm going with the brush stroke. We are going to start with light orange. And for this one, unlike the petal, I'm not going to give it a fancy shape. I'm just going to pull a swoop. We're going to do this all the way around. And it works the same way. You just push down on your brush and then lighten and lift. We're going to do light orange, light pink, and then dark orange. So next I'm going to come through with the light pink. I'm going to start my brush stroke just a smidge lower. All right, third brush stroke. I'm going to use the dark orange. This one I am going to give a little wiggle. I'm going to start and make this one a little flatter underneath. All right, we are going to grab our 6mm dotting tool. I'm going to use the dark orange. And in between each of these petals goes a dark orange dot. For me, this goes right on the outer ring of my stencil. Next, we're going to use dark pink. I'm going to get a 4mm tool. And I'm going to place a dark pink dot right here where my brush strokes meet. Now that is all I have for the base of the design. I always encourage all of my followers to decide what and how they want to do for top dots. I'm going to go ahead and dry this, and then I'm going to add a few top dots, but absolutely please feel free to top dot till your heart is content. Whenever we're doing something holiday themed or seasonal, like this is my Pinkoween series, it's fun to embellish with. If you've got rhinestones, you could use those. If you have pumpkin shapes or glitter or I don't know, who knows, paper embellishments, whatever you've got around, you can always embellish and make it more seasonal if you want to. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing with top dots. And so I'm going to go ahead and mute, and I'm going to dry this for a second. All right, for the sake of the video, I'm going to top dot before it's completely dry, but I do have a pretty good film over the top. Make sure before you do your own top dots that you do not top dot over wet paint. That never works out well. Because I want to give this more of a Halloween flair, I am going to pull out my black paint. We're going to add some black top dots. So the dot in the center here was 8mm, 8mm, 10mm. I forgot for a second what I had done. 10mm in the center. So I'm going to get a 5mm tool and add black right over the top of that. While I've got my 5mm tool out, these are smaller, so I'm going to skip those for now. But I've got these light orange dots. I'm going to add black on top of those. And then I'm going to continue with my 5mm tool, and I'm going to add black right in the center of these white. Then where I've got these dark pink petals, I'm going to use a 3mm tool. You can also use a stylus. And then the last place that I'm going to add the black top dot is out here on these orange, the dark orange around the edge. Again, I'm just using 3mm. All right, there is my first layer of top dots. I'm really liking how this is turning out. I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for a few hours, and then I may add some embellishments. I will post my finished piece up on my Facebook page, so if you want to see how it ends up, go ahead and find me on Facebook and check that out. You can always post yours right underneath that picture. Let me see what you create. I can't wait to see it. You can also post, I have a Facebook group called Dot Mandala Artists USA, where you can post pieces that you make. I would love to see what you create. And I will see you in the next Pinkoween video. Thanks for joining, everyone. I'll see you next time.